Okay. Part 3. What is that? What's he drinking? Kombucha. Blueberry kombucha made with real blueberries. Wow. From a batch that's been in there for longer than I put some in a pop bottle, 2-liter pop bottle. That's what I'm doing from now on. It was great, right until the last sip. Pressurized, carbonated, sweet, not nasty. This is like, it's good for you because it's vinegar. Oh my gosh. Okay. Gargle with that and kill whatever ails you. I hate to think of what my other stuff. The blueberry pop bottle was here, so I kept drinking out of it a little bit a day. It was great. Awesome. This stuff, the full gallon that I made 3 weeks ago, regular kombucha, is in the back. I don't know. I'm going to try to make coffee again someday. Okay. Blah, bitty, blah, 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 blah. Got some updates on wild dog stuff here, speaking of. Tame wild dogs. Sorry for the stupidity, but like I said, it's been a weird day. Really weird day. Man cave day, baby, man cave. With emphasis on the man cave. Man cave. Don't knock. Don't come visit. Don't, It's my office. It's my inner sanctorum. Shut up. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Tony kicked it, Victor kicked it. Blah, blah, blah. Scared. Good, you hungry? Good, you hungry? Mark asked, even though he already knew the answer. David affirmed his ravenous state, and the father and son walked into the kitchen to see what smelled so good. Jess started scolding both of them for David being out of bed, but she quickly relented. Mark wasn't sure if it was because of the look he flashed her or because she was relieved that David was doing well enough to get up. But the reason didn't really matter. The aroma of cooking breakfast brought Timmy and Tommy into the kitchen, where they were both overjoyed to see David. A few minutes later, Sam entered the room. She called her brother Squirt, which was her usual nickname for him, and she acted as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. This seemed to put David even more at ease. The family ate breakfast and enjoyed each other's company. Mark realized that his concerns about all the other things he'd been worrying about had impaired his ability to be thankful for what they had. Makes all the difference in the world. Be thankful. For in the last days men shall be unthankful. One of the signs of the last days, don't be unthankful. Sorry for the commentary, but take it or leave it. He spent the rest of the day with his family, except for a short time he spent talking with Gunny. Mark told the old veteran that he and his team would work 3 days to make up for the extra day they got off. Gunny said that would be fine. He also told Mark he was pulling a couple of the guards to fill the holes left by David and Jess in the observation group. In the next morning, Mark, Roman, and Albert were at Observation Post 2. This was the post that watched State Highway 87, one of the two main highways that crossed Wilson County. A little more than a mile from the county line, the National Guard roadblock couldn't be seen. A little more than a mile from the county line, the National Roadblock couldn't be seen since it was around a bend on the opposite side of a small hill. The guardsmen had shown up around noon on Sunday, not long after David had been attacked. Since then, the flow of refugees had been reduced to a trickle. Every observation post in sight of the county line had reported that a lot of people were intercepted as they tried to leave the now waterless Bexar County. Mark, since he had the third shift, climbed to the top of the hill with his binoculars to watch the goings-on at the roadblock. When Mark peeked over the hill with the field glasses, he saw 2 Humvees and a 2.5-ton truck. Each Humvee was straddling a lane and most of the shoulder on the highway so that a vehicle couldn't pass without going into the ditch. One of the highway blockers was covered in antennas and the other had a belt-fed machine gun mounted on the top. The Deuce and a Half was off to one side of the road, 30 or so yards behind the big 4x4s. There were 15 or 20 guardsmen milling around the trucks. Most of them looked to be chit-chatting or playing cards. A few were watching the road from behind the Humvees or in the machine gun turret. There were also 2 soldiers guarding the back of the Deuce and a Half, like there was something in it worth stealing. 20. Before long, a group of 6 refugees came walking down the highway toward the county line. The guardsmen, who'd been doing other things, picked up their weapons and seemed ready for trouble. As the travelers got closer, they seemed unsure as to what to do. One of the guardsmen waved them in and seemed to be telling them something. Mark was too far away to hear what was said. The man in front dropped the duffel bag he was carrying and put his hands above his head. Then he turned his back to the trucks, knelt down, crossed his legs, and put his hands on his head. The people behind him mimicked his movements, and then 8 of the soldiers scurried from behind the trucks up to the travelers. 6 of the soldiers carried rifles, and each one stood 6 or 8 feet behind a person kneeling in the road. The other 2 pushed the surrendered refugees to the ground and pulled their hands back behind their backs where they were zip-tied. Then each prisoner was searched. The troops didn't really mistreat any of the 6 of the former citizens, but they weren't exactly gentle with them either. When all 6 had been handcuffed and patted down, the 2 searchers went through the bags the travelers had been carrying. Once the bags were searched, each of the rifled guards pulled his charge to their feet and led them to the back of the Deuce and a Half. The cover was pulled back, and Mark could see that there were several people in the back. The 6 new prisoners were herded into the truck, and their bags were tossed in behind them. Mark was thankful he wasn't in those people's shoes. He realized they were breaking the directives of the president and FEMA, but they were just trying to get by. He didn't like the idea that his family might have already been treated this way, and he had mixed emotions about what he would do if he saw them being herded into a truck like common criminals. A few minutes later, another Deuce and a Half showed up and parked behind the one with the detainees in it. Mark watched for a while and saw 2 more small groups stopped, searched, and seized. One of them tried to turn around and leave when they saw the roadblock, but the soldiers chased them down. When the first truck was full, it pulled out to take the prisoners to, Mark hoped, the FEMA shelters. He didn't want to consider any other option. Mark went back to the observation post camp and tried to get some rest. When it was time for his next watch, he reported to the post and relieved Roman. He hated just sitting here. It gave him time to think. Before the burst, he would have welcomed it. But now, it only allowed his mind to worry about things he was powerless to do anything about. He laughed to himself. Before the burst, he worried about things that now seemed so insignificant. Was he saving enough money for retirement and the kids' college educations? Would he be considered for the next promotion at work? Could he afford to buy a new truck? Now he worried that he might not have enough food, that they might not have enough food to make it through the winter. He worried that some group of MZBs would kill them in a surprise attack. And now, since the dog attack, he worried about what he wasn't worrying about. That was his biggest fear. The things he could see as threats, he could at least do something about.